This time on Lobot Garage, I play with my cooling system. Luckily it's rusty, so it should hold okay. I play with some wiring. Found no power at this place. And I get to play around with driving. Oh yeah, my clutch is bad. In my last video where I got this International up and running, I told you two things. One of them was, you're not going to see this in the next video. And the second one is the next time you see it, I'm going to get it on the road. One of those things wasn't true. I was supposed to be working on this, but the parts are still in the mail on this one. So this has got to be put off another video. The parts that weren't supposed to be here yet for this truck did arrive, so I have those. We're seeing this in this video. I love when you guys comment on videos because a lot of it's information I didn't know. For example, apparently inside this glove box, you squeeze the sides. Let's see, squeezing the sides, flip it down, and there's supposed to be a build sheet up here. There isn't. Maybe someone already found the build sheet. Oh, matches. Wooden matches. Haven't seen those in a long time. I never would have known to look without a comment. At least we had a chance at it. I'll just put that back up. There we go. Another comment said I had the gas caps wrong. This is supposed to be the one on the fender mounted tank, and the other one's supposed to mount here. So let's try that. I was kind of wondering about this because it's not really convenient to grip, but it works. That one seems to work better. It definitely fits there. And that definitely works here. And it doesn't stick out as much. So, yeah, that's probably the one from here. That makes sense. I'm betting someone lost the gas cap here at a station or something and just stole the one from the fender and put it on. Some people asked about where this reserve tank was. Let me show you. It goes in here. The filler neck goes down along inside the fender behind the front tire. And there's the tank down there. Now on the other side we have the filler neck up here, like on trucks that have the tank behind the seat, but that goes down to here, and the tank is underneath. So twin side mounted gas tanks with fillers in completely different spots. And under the hood here is the valve that selects between tanks to switch between the main and auxiliary from the dashboard. Now the oil line here and brackets here, that mystery is also solved. It has nothing to do with the cables for the winch. I mentioned it to the previous owner. He realized immediately what happened. There used to be a remote filter here. He took it off to find a replacement element and forgot to put it back on, or tell me about it. He felt bad, but the motor never ran out of oil, so no harm done. We've got the big transmission, and as I mentioned in the last video, that's a 5-speed overdrive. Apparently that's a T34 transmission. And it is a 5-speed, and it is one that is pretty desirable, so that's good. Now this looks like the reverse light connector. That may be an issue someday, but I'm going to ignore it for now. Now I don't need a front license plate in this state, but this holder was too cool to remove. So I did some poking on eBay. I think this will work. I like that. Now in the comments I found out what kind of winch was supposed to be here. It's kind of unique to have the mounting bolts in the front. And apparently that was an early Warn or Bellevue winch, and they bolted on that way. Also, they were electric, but the controls for the electrics were on the unit itself and the brake was mechanical. So they ran remote push-pull cables to the unit up here, which matches my controls. Brand new water pump, 47 bucks including shipping. So that wasn't too bad. It even came with a gasket. So now I gotta pop out the old one and swap them out. Huh, that's stuck on there. Key thing is I don't want it to pop off and smash into the radiator. There we go. I only hit it a little bit, not too bad. Now it looks like in order to get to these bolts, you're supposed to take off this pulley. And the pulley's held on by these Phillips head screws. So let's see how easy those come out. Didn't have any luck with those Phillips head screws, so I'm just going to try to sneak this water pump out with the pulley still on it, and it'll be a lot easier to deal with taking that pulley off on a workbench. Good thing bolts are flexible. There we go. Last bolt. Appropriate hammer. And I think I need a screwdriver. I think I need a bigger screwdriver. Okay. Hey, most of it's going in the bucket. Kind of glad I'm replacing that. I got the water pump out. A little bit of buildup in here. We're just going to do something about that. Some of the stuff is stuck on there really good. That looks a little bit better. Got this water pump in to pull the pulley off. I was looking at it. I didn't realize how bad this one is. There's an entire blade missing here. This one's kind of folded over. If that hadn't leaked, I never would have taken it off. And I'm really glad I took that off because that needs to be replaced. Now I can actually put some real torque on these. And apparently they don't take that much. Now, someone had mentioned that this would be a tricky part of the job. This must have been replaced at some point because this is real easy. Seems to fit. A lot easier with the pulley off. Should have done that in the first place. Couple bolts snug. Make sure it spins. We'll tighten her down. Now, one thing I've learned after repeatedly doing it wrong a number of times is that once you get to this point of the water pump install, stop and put water in it. Because before you put the pulleys on or the fan on or all the other stuff that gets in the way, make sure that doesn't leak. I mentioned in the last video I found a fuel pump for under 20 bucks. This is it. It's actually a Carter brand. There we go. Hopefully this takes care of a good chunk of my fueling issues. You can tell that's been in there a while. Back when I was working on that stove bolt Chevy, I showed you the scientific test for testing fuel pumps to squeeze them and make sure they made the right sounds. This one makes no sound. Doesn't sound like it's pumping at all. So by that scientific test, we know for sure this is a bad pump. This is what it should sound like. That sounds like it'll pump. The fuel pump was in there, but the lines are completely wrong. The inlet and outlet are totally different spots than the old one, so it isn't exactly a direct replacement, but we'll make it work. Now the other end's bent too far. I got to straighten it out because it doesn't fit anymore either. A lot of times I'll just throw a deep well socket on the end of the hose. It gives you a little more leverage if it's bent close to the end. If you need even more, a little extension. Then you actually have something to grab on, and the hex kind of holds the round a little bit better than it would with pliers or anything like that. There we go. I was just installing the belts here, and I noticed right there, that inner belt, that looks like an International logo. Is there a possibility this is the original 1970 International belt? And it's really worn down. It's possible that's a 53-year-old belt. Well, I've got these screws dug down with a regular screwdriver. Now I'm going to take a screwdriver bit that fits in a ratcheting wrench and torque them down a little more. Now I got the belts on here and tightened them down, so that gives me a little bit of resistance, so this thing just doesn't. I've got the belts on here and they're tightened down, so that gives me some resistance, so the pulley just doesn't spin around. I got something to work against. I should be able to get these torqued fine. Oh yeah, that's pretty good tension on there. This is a bit of fuel line that goes to the carburetor in this International. But this is a straight section of tube now with nothing to hold the hose on. And you can usually get by with a hose clamp. Sometimes they leak a little, you can add two. And I've done that for years. But I found a better way, once I got a double flaring tool, is basically you set it up to do a double flare, and don't finish it. Because the steps of a double flare is the first thing you do is you bubble out the tubing and then you squish it in. Well, the bubbling out is all we need for a hose. That little bubble at the end makes it much better than just a straight tube and doesn't cost anything. The fitting of that fuel pump was pointing completely the wrong direction, so I had to add a 90-degree fitting and a barb to get it to point in roughly the right direction. I also added a clear fuel filter so we could see what kind of junk comes out of the tank, and hopefully keep it out of our brand new fuel pump. Then from the fuel pump, we go up to this line, which goes to this catch can, so I can see what comes out and catch that separately. Then we have the old gravity feed system hooked up. I'm just going to raise the tank and then we'll have fuel to the car. What I'm looking for here mainly is water. I can tell there's old fuel in here, which, you know, isn't great, but it'll go through and it'll burn. But water could be a problem. You fill up the carburetor. I don't see any water, I don't see any debris. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this thing up and let's see what we got. Got the fuel system hooked like it's supposed to be. Let's see how that works. It's idling on its own, and has been for a while. For the first time, I can actually close the hood and then drive it. Imagine being able to see forward. Now, since this truck is running half decent, I went against my better judgment and decided to wash it. Now, I've tried this before. On my J10, I tried to do the wash and shine juice thing. Complete failure here in the desert. You do not want to get dust anywhere near that stuff. But I still had some of the fine steel wool with the soap in it left over. And I went ahead and scuffed down a little bit of the truck with that. And then I found, when I was cleaning the shop, I found some kind of product. It says wax, it says crystal, it's got to be shiny. I started reading the instructions, they started talking about microfiber, and I just used some shop rags. So basically I just scuffed it, coated it with this wax stuff, and it's a little bit better. I did a half and half so you guys can take a look. Here's the done side. There's the not done side. I'm not sure if the appearance is worth the effort, but at a bare minimum, this feels like no dust at all is going to stick to it. So it should just blow right off and I should never have to wash it again, which is what I want. So I guess I'm going to have to do this side to make it match. What's nice is as I do this, not much of the green paint's coming off, but a lot of the rusty stuff is coming off. So I'm almost thinking we might expose more paint than we had, so it won't be covered up by rust. Gotta block the camera now. I'm just gonna slather on the mystery goo I found in the back of the shop. It says wax, so I'm assuming that's what it is. It's probably less than 20 years old, so it's gotta work. Wax doesn't go bad, does it? Now we buff off the waxy stuff. We're left with something. It's definitely better than it was, and it's a truck, so I'm just gonna go get it dirty anyway. This is the wire that wasn't hooked up when I got the truck, so I'm gonna hook it up to something. I'm gonna put on either on or accessory, and either way, it should be on when the ignition's on. Okay, didn't hear any sparks, so let's see what happens. Still nothing on the gauges, so maybe I'll check the fuses. I got it running here. Now checking the fuses, we've got power to absolutely everything on the left hand side and both sides, so all the fuses are live and good. And on the other side we have absolutely no power to anything at all. I see one thing saying auxiliary lights. These might all have to do with lighting, so we're going to try turning on the lights and see what happens. Let's see if this does anything. Headlights, that's a good sign. Got taillights, even better. Both of them. Now I got the light switch on. We'll see what we got. We got power, power, nothing, nothing, power, power. So I got 2 fuses. I have no idea what they do, but we have lights, so that's good. Still nothing on the dashboard though. It's kind of hard to read the labels, so I'm going to pop out those last 2 and see if they're anything relevant. Park and high beam. Yeah, I don't think those matter. Okay, well, this isn't the problem with the instrument cluster. The thermostat just opened up, so let's shut her down. Now I haven't installed the fan yet because I wanted to see the thermostat open and see this actually do something. Now I had hosed off this engine while I was washing it, so what we have is excess water coming off. The thermostat at least opened, and we've got heat in there, which means our cooling system's going to work. So now we need the fan and fan shroud. I grabbed the fan shroud that I found in the interior when I got the truck, and we're going to see what we can do with that. Now you can tell it's had some repairs done by the level of decayed duct tape, and this is what they're trying to fix. There is a crack right here, completely separated. That's all coming off. Yep. There's a crack right there too. So we're gonna have to fix that before we install it. I need to repair the cracks in this fan shroud, and I want to do something a little better than duct tape. Doesn't have to be a lot better. Duct tape's pretty good, but a little bit better. So I'm gonna make another panel that matches it and rivet the 2 together. What I have here is some leftover material from an old job I did. Now this is a kind of neat, unique material because it's 2024 aluminum, which is pretty standard, but it's in the O condition, which means this stuff is super soft and easy to form. So we can actually bend this to the contours there real easy right now. Yeah, something about that size. This is 40 thou thick, which is a pretty thick piece of metal, a lot thicker than regular sheet metal. So we can just form this stuff by hand, whatever shape we want. Now a flange that comes up and curves around is usually tricky to make, but in this stuff it's no problem. You just push it around by hand and bend it to whatever shape you want. So something like that. So we've got our curves, we've got all our shapes here formed into it, real easy. This area here is cracked too, and this has a very gentle curve, but it goes to a 90-degree flange. So if you bend it, it won't want to make that curve with most materials. Yeah, don't go that way. I want it to go that way. Got our sharp corner there. Now we just need to curve the whole thing. What do we got that's handy? Found a brake drum that's supposed to be going on the shop truck, but I haven't got around to that yet. That looks like a good curve. There. So I have here a little piece. It's flat on the bottom and matches a curve on the edge. So I can just rivet this in place. Now this will be plenty strong and give us just the shape we want if we make it strong enough. So we'll do that next. Now we're going to take these parts, pop them in that oven to make them stronger. Now these are in the O condition, which is a permanently soft condition, so they're never going to harden up. It's totally stable. So what I'm going to do is solution treat these, and that'll make an unstable soft condition, and they'll harden into a T4 condition naturally in 96 hours at room temperature. If you actually want to play with aluminum like this, there's a spec. It's a MIL H6088, and that's a real good spec for covering heat treating aluminum. It's a freebie one. Someone wants you to pay for it, don't do it. There's free sources out there. But for 2024, we basically go up to 920 degrees, which this oven's already set for, because I've done this before. And we're going to go ahead and quench it after it hits that temperature. It'll take a few minutes. We'll come back to it. So while that aluminum's heating up, we're going to work on bleeding these brakes, because it's working pretty consistently about the third pump in. I'd like the brakes to work the first time I hit the pedal. That's kind of convenient. The bleeder is completely clogged, so we'll clear that out and then figure out how to make fluid come out of this thing. We're up almost 700 degrees, so let's get in there. That's good to go. Well, while I was inside cleaning the bleeder, it looks like fluid decided to come out. So we have gravity bled it while we're working on making it being able to bleed. Perfect. Well, I'm on the passenger side front wheel, and this is the one where the brake drum was already really out of balance, like by a lot. And for some reason, first off, the bleeder is a 10 millimeter, which it's definitely not the one that's supposed to be here. Also, I can't get any fluid at all out of this one. The bleeder looks real new, but since I bled the other ones, the pedal works fine. First time I hit it, I got brakes. I'm just going to tighten this bleeder back up and assume that when I go and test it, everything will work fine. Because the pedal feels good. There, done, maybe. Now this oven's been up to temperature for a little while. There's some minimum number of minutes you're supposed to do, but basically what you want to do is you want the aluminum to be heated thoroughly and have a little bit of time for the molecules to bounce around a bit and reorganize somewhat. If you actually want to do it right, you read the spec. I ignored this and worked on bleeding my brakes, and I figured that's long enough. So we're going to pop it out. So now the key thing is you get it out of there and into the water as fast as possible. Also, 900 degrees is pretty hot. If you ever burned yourself in an oven, this is more. So I use a pretty good glove, more than a welding glove, and a pair of pliers to pull out a tray. But we're going to be careful and just pull this out real fast. And in we go. Though there's a little bit of a delay there, but not too bad. We should be okay. I'm just going to put it in here to cool down. They should be cool pretty much immediately. There's so much water. They're all cooled down. So we're ready to install them. Now these won't get to full hardness for 96 hours, but it's 96 hours at room temperature. So we can install them and use it and it'll be fine. And after that point, they'll be up to the T4 condition, which is like regular aluminum. It's nice and rigid. So now what I'm doing is I take my panels and I'm drilling through, put a pop rivet with the big head on the plastic side and the upset head on the aluminum side. And there we are. We've got it riveted together. We got our form piece in there. Fits pretty nicely and a lot sturdier than it used to be with the duct tape. I don't have the fan on yet, but I'm going to put the shroud on first. That way I can slide it kind of backwards and put the fan on in front of it and get to the bolts that way. Now I've got a couple bolts on that fan, not all of them, and I want to see if this shroud clears before I bolt them all down. So we'll put this in position. Oh yeah. Got the shroud in. So now we should have cooling air going over the radiator. I found a cap. It's off a different radiator. It doesn't quite fit right. But that's okay because I don't want to pressurize this system for two reasons. One, I haven't put a bead on this piece of extension tube here. It's a steel extension on the rubber hose. I want to put a bead on the end so it holds pressure and doesn't pop apart. Haven't done it. Luckily it's rusty, so it should hold okay, especially with low pressure. Also, there's still holes in the radiator. When I got this radiator, I was told there were several holes. I found one big one and then another big one, but there might be more. So I want to run this for a little bit and see where it comes out, because I might be pulling this radiator again. Let's check for brake lights and turn signals. Got a little bit of fixing here to do. Now, this brake light wasn't working, but hopefully it's just a bad bulb, since the other side was. I had 3 spares in my stash. I'm down to this one. Hopefully this one works. Well, found a few flashers lying in my parts bin, so let's just randomly start swapping them out. Well, I got a signal light working. I even have the cool dashboard indicator working on that side only, so I can only turn right. The whole time I've been playing with lights, I've left this idling because I wanted to see what the cooling system did. It looks like it's working. We've got the upper hose is nice and hot, which means the motor heat is coming out, but the radiator itself is not bad. The return side tank, it's warm, but I can touch it. So that's good. I think we got a cooling system that works. All I got to do is get one brake light going, we can take it for a ride. But I'm calling it quits for tonight because the moon clock right there is telling me it is time for it to be Friday night. So I'm done for now. I'll pick up again in the morning. Since I didn't have brake lights or signal light on this side, I'm suspecting the wiring somewhere because they both work on the same high power circuit on this light bulb. So I'm going to test the socket itself and just go in there with my test light and hit the tab and make sure I have power going to the circuit. In order to do that, I need to set up the brake lights. Here is my braking foot leg simulator. I'm just sliding the seat forward and that pushes the brake pedal down. I did notice something interesting though. When I slid the seat forward, I had to take it out of low range in order to get the seat to move. Now this brake light is on, so I'm sure I have power supposed to be going to it. We have the two terminals in there. This one, that one should be my brake lights, and I got nothing. So the problem is not the bulb, the problem's in the wiring. Since this truck is meant to haul a trailer, that means that taillight wiring is connected to this pile of stuff to go to the trailer. And you can tell, whoever used this last appears that coax cable was a safety chain held in with a really long nail. I'm not sure if they're really concerned about quality at the last time they used this. Makes me think that something in this wiring might be suspect, so I'm going to check the taillight here and see if I'm getting the right output at the connector that I'm supposed to be getting up there. Now I'm going all the way around this connector and I got nothing at any pin. These wires might be a bit of an issue. I found no power at this splice, found no power at this splice. Now this is the main harness connector going to that light. I also found no power here. Tried all three of them, absolutely nothing. Which means the problem is somewhere up forward. Somewhere, don't know where. I pulled this connector down a little bit to make sure I could figure out what wire color I wanted to trace. It appears they're all white. I don't know why, but that'll make it interesting. So, some white wire somewhere is the problem. So I'm tracing the wire down the frame and run across this. This doesn't quite look factory. Yeah, I'm wondering if this was a connector for a slide-in camper. It's right near the front of the bed. That might make sense. We got more splices up here, so let's test those out. Broke that one, but there's no power going to it. Oh, that one broke too. Is this one gonna break? Yep. You know, I think I'm just gonna remove these splices. I found a couple interesting things. I found a red wire that has power to it that is not connected to anything. I also found my three white wires I've been tracing. That one right there has power to it. Well, I removed this entire harness. Now this is definitely a white wire going to where the taillight is, and power's on it with the brakes applied, and we have power downstream, which means that connector was not actually the problem. Well, I'm chasing this harness backwards, and I come to a spot, and I already undid the tape here, so there's a junction. These are the wires going to the passenger side taillight, and then these are the wires going to the driver's side taillight. Now when I started tracing this harness, there were 3 white wires, and now there are 4 white wires. I feel a lump right here, so I'm hoping that's my junction. So now I gotta peel back this tape. That was a junction. It was 2 white wires going to a black wire. So now we have 2 white and 2 black in this harness. It also means that this harness feeds both left and right lights. I only found 1 live wire in the middle. So my problem still might be upstream, because I might have just been probing the 1 wire going to the passenger side brake light, not the driver's side one. So let's go back forward again and ignore all this. I'll tape that up later. I went back to the source, went under the dash, and that brake light switch right there is controlling the lights and working properly. But there's only 1 wire coming out of that. So somewhere under the dash, in this harness, possibly under the hood where 2 white wires go to a connector that doesn't connect to anything, and there's nothing around that it would connect to, Here all the harnesses go under the seat inside the cab. And the seat doesn't have any kind of tilt mechanism. So I can't actually get to where those harnesses go in to check there. But somewhere there's got to be a diode or something like that that allows the brake wires to go one power to two lights independently that don't affect each other while it's signaling. Somewhere. I've reached my limit of playing with wires. It's getting to the point where it's not fun, which means I'm doing it wrong. I got to do something different. What I'm going to do is go to this back of the vehicle where I have a trailer connector that has a wire that does brake lights. I'm just going to run a separate wire from this trailer connector directly to the taillight connector. And I'll throw a little electrical tape on that too, but now we have two brake lights. Now I've been looking at this taillight a lot, and I noticed that this top section here has the turn signal, running light, brake light bulb. That's the backup light bulb. There's nothing down here. Let's go to the other side. Now this lens also has the stop light and turn signal light, then the backup light, and then nothing. See where it says top right there? Someone has this entire lens upside down so that the brake light is going through a reflector and nothing is going on the actual lens. So let's fix that. You'd think this was labeled clearly enough, but apparently not. Maybe I'll wash this before I put it back together. Now it's a lot cleaner in here. Probably get a little more light, and we'll actually point the light out the lens as opposed to the reflector. So it should work better. And the word top is on the top. Imagine that. Now let's see if we have two brake lights. I look back at the video, we got them. So that means we have a cooling system that might work. We have a fuel system that appears to work. We have brakes that seem like they're going to work. We have brake lights that do work. We might have to find out about that clutch, which means we need a little bit of a road test. First time on the road in 20 years. See if my seatbelt works. Yep, it does. All right, see how she does. Starts pretty nice. Brakes are working. Let's try them a little harder once I get an open spot here. Okay, let's try this. Oh yeah, brakes work. Gotta remember the shift pattern. It's 1 is up, then 2 is also up, then 3 is down, then 4 is also down, and 5 is up. I think I got it. Wonder how much gas I put in this. Hope I don't run out. Oh well, let's find out. There's me a second. We got nothing. Oh yeah, my clutch is bad. Alright. And third is down. The clutch isn't grabbing at all. It's moving under its own power. We're just going to turn around here. Oh yeah, pulls hard to the left. Good thing it's a low first gear, otherwise I don't know if I'd actually get moving. Is that fifth? I don't know what gear that is. Let's try that one. There we go. There we go. As soon as I touch the gas, it just revs up. Yeah, it just slips. It's like a CVT. The motor just revs and then you accelerate. Terrible. Let's try fourth. That's down again. There's a gear there. This is pretty bad. I was planning on taking a bit of a ride, trying to find a trail to go four-wheeling, check the four-wheel drive, but no, we're not going very far. There is no clutch left. Oh, we are moving. Making progress. Speedometer's working, doing 25. We're calling this done, because there's not much I can do here that's good. It's not going to get any better. That's it for today. I planned on driving a little longer, but that clutch is bad. I need the last little bit of it to survive long enough to move around the yard to get on the lift to replace it. But I had a good time. The engine ran great the whole time, always started right up, cruised right along, so that's working well. And it's just the little minor details of the going and stopping that we got to deal with. I'll get to that eventually. But I just got a pile of parts in for that mutt truck, so I'm really going to work on that next. Hope you guys are having fun in your projects, and we'll see you next time. This time there's going to be no gain here, so I expect there is just oil in this oil pan. But I also expect there's some gas mixed in from the bad fuel pump. I got it nice and warm running back and forth down the road, so we're going to dump this and put some fresh stuff in, and this should be in good shape here. At least now I know what's in there, for sure.